Exactly 200 years ago, the novel Frankenstein was published in London. It appeared anonymously. There was no author's name on the jacket, but that was not unusual for the period. The book received very mixed reviews, but despite this it was a rapid sellout. The reason is that many people in London thought that the work was by Mary Shelley, the famous poet. In June 1818, the second edition of the book was published, but this time it had an author's name on the jacket, and the name was Mary Shelley, Percy Shelley's wife. Since then, the phenomenon of Frankenstein has become a global monster, which has spawned films, TV shows, stage plays, satires, comics. And it's fair to say that the phenomenon of Frankenstein has overshadowed anything else that the Shelleys created. The story of Frankenstein has been widely seen as both a metaphor and a satire on progress in the life sciences and a warning about scientists attempting to play God with little understanding or sympathy for the potential impact on humans and society. In 1986, the book Frankenstein struck me as a perfect way to express my own growing unease about progress in genetics and AI. As I reread the book, I realised that Mary Shelley could be described as a futurist. Certainly her visions of the future, in which Dr. Frankenstein's unnamed, manufactured creature roamed the world seeking companionship and love, was a warning of future dystopia. And then I discovered that in 1826, 8 years after Frankenstein was published, Mary wrote a novel called The Last Man, which was set at the end of the 21st century. This novel told the story of the last man left in a world in which humans had become wholly extinct as a pandemic had swept the world. I suppose many would describe Mary Shelley as an early science fiction writer, but I think she should now be reclassified as the first female futurist. Her fiction was an attempt to draw probable future scenarios rather than create fantastic flights of imagination. In considering Mary Shelley's writing to be works of futurology and social commentary rather than just science fiction, I think it's worthwhile looking at the influences that helped to shape Mary Shelley. Her mother was Mary Wollstonecraft, an absolutely formidable arch-feminist, and her book, The Polemic, A Vindication of the Rights of Women, was a sensational success in her mother's period. Her father was William Godwin, the famous novelist, polemicist and journalist, and he also shaped ideas about the future and about society in the late 18th century. With these two influences, Mary had the creative gene and the futuristic gene in her blood. Between 1984 and 1986, I spent 2 years researching the creation of the novel Frankenstein and developing the idea of the book as a metaphor for present-day life sciences. The result was my book, The Modern Frankenstein, which was published by the Blandford Press in September 1986. It was partly a biography of Mary Shelley and partly a polemic which suggested that Frankenstein remained a powerful metaphor and warning about heedless scientific progress. I also wrote a radio drama, The Making of Frankenstein, for BBC Radio 4, and I contributed the idea and script outline for the BBC One television docudrama Frankenstein, which was shown in 1986 as part of the BBC's Everyman series. It's now over 30 years since I made my various literary excursions using Mary Shelley's Frankenstein as a metaphor for modern science. But today I think her words are even more apt, more useful to sum up the risks we face. For example, here we're developing genetic engineering to change the human germline, and we're developing AI systems that one day may rival our own capabilities. I think Mary would be as alarmed today as she was in 1817 when she wrote Frankenstein, and I think her words are an apt reminder of how we should proceed.